皆様、
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us today at the venue or online. We would like to begin the 13th International Forum for Sustainable Asia and the Pacific, ISAP 2021. We're starting the plenary session. I will be serving as the MC today. I'm from IGES. My name is Kawakita. Thank you very much. Now we'd like to begin the opening ceremony. We would like to invite Mr. Tsuyoshi Yamaguchi, the Minister for the Environment, to give us the opening remarks.
環境大臣の山口剛です。
This is Tsuyoshi Yamaguchi, the Minister of the Environment of Japan. It is my pleasure to make the opening remarks for the International Forum for Sustainable Asia and the Pacific. Dr. Kazuhiko Takeuchi, President of the Institute for Global Environmental Studies, IGES, our host, members of cooperating organizations, congratulations on holding this 13th forum on such a large scale again this year. Climate change is a global issue, and to contribute to its solution, Japan is aiming for carbon neutral by 2050 and by fiscal 2030, cutting GHG emissions by 46%, aiming for an ambitious 50%. And last year, decided on our global warming countermeasures plan and our long-term strategy based on the Paris Agreement as a growth strategy. At the COP26, held just the other day, we agreed that the world's GHG emissions by the middle of this century will be brought to net zero, and to make efforts to keep the temperature increase to within 1.5 degrees from pre-industrial revolution levels. Japan, too, made great contributions in the important negotiation themes, such as the Paris Agreement Article 6, which stipulates market mechanisms. The Paris Rulebook was completed, making this a historical COP. Going forward, to reach the ambition of countries across the world and support their execution, we will be thorough in domestic reductions and also support developing countries draw up and execute their climate change policies. For example, in the Indo-Pacific, we will further expand the JCM, Joint Crediting Mechanism, and in October, based on the Japan-ASEAN Climate Change Action Agenda 2.0 announced at the Japan-ASEAN Summit meeting, we will enhance cooperation regarding climate change, especially decarbonization transition. Meanwhile, biodiversity, the foundation of survival for mankind, is being lost. Preventing this loss and getting back on a recovery track is, for enhancing climate change resilience, important. To do this, from the end of April to early May next year, at the CBD, Convention on Biological Diversity, COP15, Part 2, we need to agree on an ambitious post-2020 biodiversity framework. In particular, by 2030, conserving at least 30% of the world's land and sea. The so-called 30 by 30 is an important element of the post-2020 biodiversity framework. The Ministry of the Environment will steadily move forward in considering a roadmap for realizing 30 by 30, the pathway for realizing this target. Moreover, including the Asia-Pacific, numerous countries are taking part in the Satoyama initiative, and through this, utilizing the natural environment to contribute to solving social issues, including climate change, we will accumulate good practices. And, contributing to the post-2020 biodiversity framework, we have, for example, started projects in developing countries and will continue to develop such efforts. At this forum, internationally active experts, private sector companies, governments, international organizations, NGOs, and other diverse stakeholders come together to hold concrete debate for realizing a sustainable society. I understand this is an important opportunity, with hopes that the upcoming discussions will be fruitful and that the wisdom and achievements gained will, through your future activities, become a major way for bringing about a sustainable society in the Asia-Pacific. I would like to make this my opening remarks. Thank you for listening.
Next, we have Mr. Satoshi Koitabashi, Vice Governor of Kanagawa Prefectural Government. Vice Governor, the floor is yours.
皆様、こんにちは。
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Koitabashi, Vice Governor of Kanagawa Prefectural Government. Although the fight against COVID-19 continues in many countries around the world, including Japan, I'd like to take this opportunity to express my heartfelt congratulations at the opening of the 13th International Forum for Sustainable Asia and the Pacific, or ISAP 2021. Since its establishment, Institute for Global Environmental Strategies, or IGES, has been conducting practical policy research for the realization of sustainable development in the Asia-Pacific region. In addition, this year, as a joint research project with our prefecture, IGES formulated Kanazawa Decarbonization Vision 2050, showing the vision of a decarbonized society and actions that each and every citizen of the prefecture can take to realize the vision. Through such efforts, in recent years, IGES has further strengthened their cooperation with our prefecture, and I'd like to express my respect and gratitude again for the great contribution to the international community as well as the local community through these efforts. The overarching theme of this forum is the decisive decade towards integrated solutions to climate, biodiversity, and other planetary challenges. And I understand that thematic track meetings on climate change, biodiversity, and SDGs will be held from tomorrow onwards. Today, the planet Earth is facing two crises: climate change and loss of biodiversity due to greenhouse gas emissions and deforestation as a result of human activities. At the COP26 meeting in Glasgow, UK, about 200 countries and regions agreed to pursue efforts to limit the temperature rise to 1.5 degrees Celsius. With regard to biodiversity, the IGE targets setting out the immediate actions to be taken by 2020 to achieve the international long-term goals for conservation and sustainable use by 2050 reached the final year. In response, we understand that a new global goal, post-2020 framework for biodiversity, will be adopted at the 15th Conference of the Parties to the Convention on Biological Diversity, or COP15, to be held in Kunming, China in April 2022. These two problems are intricately intertwined. It's been pointed out that it is important to take measures to solve these problems simultaneously. Governor Kuroiwa of Kanagawa Prefecture came into office immediately after the Great East Japan earthquake. Ever since then, based on the experience of the Great Earthquake, he's been promoting actions toward the expansion of solar power generation and renewable energy. The prefecture has decided to aim for decarbonization of the society by 2050, and the global warming countermeasures plan to be revised this fiscal year. We raise its greenhouse gas reduction target to 46% by FY 2030, in line with the national government. In order to achieve this goal, the prefecture must take the lead in reducing greenhouse gas emissions and encourage citizens and businesses to view global warming as their own personal issue and take action. That is the reason why Kanagawa Decarbonization Vision 2050 must be utilized, so that we can collaborate with all the stakeholders in implementing these actions together. In addition, our prefecture has a population of about 9.2 million in the fifth smallest area as a prefecture in Japan. And while there are areas where urbanization has progressed, there are also a wide variety of ecosystems in the varied topography and climate of the mountains, foothills, rivers, and coastal areas. In addition to taking measures to conserve biodiversity in accordance with these regional characteristics, the prefecture has been taking various measures to ensure that we can enjoy the blessings of rich biodiversity in the future. Going forward, the prefecture will consider the two crises of climate change and biodiversity loss as deeply interrelated and disseminate information so that people can feel them as issues close to home. And these issues are related to SDGs as well. We have a slogan that lives shine in Kanagawa Prefecture. In order for people's lives to shine, we need healthcare, food, environment, energy, and education to be enriched, and all of them have to be connected so that all the policies will be taken in tandem. By so doing, lives will shine. And our initiatives are based on SDGs. Lives must shine in Kanagawa Prefecture, and to achieve this, we will attain SDGs so that we can contribute to sustainable society in the world. In this context, it is very timely and meaningful to have discussions on climate change and biodiversity at this forum. I hope that the forum will be an opportunity for the participants to network with each other, which will lead to further international discussions on the future of sustainable development in the Asia-Pacific region. In addition, I would like to ask for your support for our prefecture's efforts to realize a decarbonized society. In closing, I'd like to express my sincere wishes for the further development of IGES and the good health and activities of all the participants here today. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Governor Deputy Koitabashi. We would now like to have Professor Kazuhiko Takeuchi of IGES to give you an opening remark. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your kind introduction. I am the president of IGES, Takeuchi. On behalf of the organizers, I would like to give you a welcoming remark. Thank you very much for your participation in the 13th ISAP 2021. I would like to welcome you all. I would like to take this opportunity to thank everyone who is appearing in this program. First, Minister Tsuyoshi Yamaguchi of the Environment, who have kindly sent us the video message, in addition to the Deputy Governor of Kanagawa, Mr. Satoshi Koitabashi. Furthermore, speakers and panelists at each plenary sessions, including the Executive Secretary of CBG, Dr. Elizabeth Maruma Murema, and Professor Jan Kejun, ERI Director, and Potsdam Institute of Climate Change and Professor of Earth System Science of Potsdam University, Professor Johan Rockström, in addition to the Director General of Viva One and President and CEO of WBCSD, Mr. Peter Backer, Mr. Masaya Futamiya, Chairman and Representative Director of Sampo Japan. Furthermore, Professor Yukari Takamura, University of Tokyo Institute for Future Initiatives, Professor Naoko Ishii of University of Tokyo Institute for Future Initiative and Global Common Center Director, and Mr. Hiroshi Kato of Kanagawa Prefecture Environmental Division. Furthermore, Tohoku University Graduate School Life Science Professor Kaori Fujita and Nikkei ESG Senior Director. We are also being tuned in by a great number of people from across the world. On behalf of the organizing institution of this event, I would like to thank you all. As the president of the Institute for Global Environmental Strategies, on the occasion of the opening of this event, I would also like to acknowledge the support we have received from EU Intercity Regional Cooperation Program, TERI, and United Nations University Institute of Advanced Studies, and WBCSD. From the Ministry of the Environment, Kanagawa Prefecture, Hyogo Prefecture, Kitakyushu City, Yokohama City, Kawasaki City, and National Institute of Environmental Studies, JICA, Keidanren, an Environmental Restoration and Conservation Agency, and Global Environment Action, ICLEI Japan, and many institutions from the central government, municipalities, and NPOs in the environmental sectors have provided support. And hybrid format of conference, Yokohama Tourism Convention Bureau has provided support, considering this as a model and demonstration case of a hybrid organization of an international conference. For this year's ISAP, the theme is the decisive decade. We need a dramatic as well as transformative change. And how to bring about such a change is the theme of this event. SDGs is an overarching international target under which two global major issues of biodiversity and climate change should be tackled in a more integrative manner. How can we do that? Under the pandemic, a great number of decision makers have maintained their commitment to deal with the global challenges of climate change and biodiversity conservation. This means that we have to consider the pandemic as one of the opportunity to drive the sustainability agenda from a wider perspective. From October 31st to November 13th at Glasgow, UK, UNFCCC COP26 have been held, attended by leaders of more than 130 countries. High-level events have been organized. Led by the president, they also had a sideway events for the duration of 2 weeks. I would like to bring your attention to the following points. We have set a strong step into the commitment of the so-called 1.5 degree commitment. And the contents of the Chapter 6 of the rulebook have been negotiated and set forward, as well as to ensure the transparency in terms of the implementation of the Paris Agreement, along with the timeline of NDC submission. This means that we now have the complete package as to how we are to implement the Paris Agreement. At the same time, there is a huge gap between the target and the commitment level of the member countries. In order to close the gap, countries now have to review their 2030 target. During the COP26, coal has been discussed for the very first time. With regard to the coal power generation that has been committed to phase down. At the same time, a great number of countries are opting for phasing out the coal power. This means that we have to further drive our commitment as well. Nature and forest has been a major topic in COP26 as well. The Glasgow Declaration of National Leaders have been signed by leaders of more than 120 countries, committing to the conservation of the forest assets by 2030. Major developed countries, in addition to Brazil and Indonesia, have signed this declaration, making it possible to cover 90% of the area space of the forest coverage. And from October 10th to the 15th, prior to COP26, CBD COP15 was partially held online, and along with the face-to-face meeting in Kunming, China. The second part of COP15 will be held in Kunming from April to May next year, where post-2020 biodiversity framework is expected to be adopted as the successor of the IG target. Unfortunately, much of the IG target has not been fulfilled, failing to reverse the loss of biodiversity. We now have to find a path to create a society that allows coexistence between people and the nature. This means that we have to set a more aspirational goal as well. The 30 by 30 target is now being discussed to ensure the conservation of 30% of nature in sea and on land. Satoyama and Satoumi needs to be wisely managed to ensure the conservation of biodiversity. Also, it should be conserved through the method of OECM outside the boundary of the conservation area. Coincidentally, the pandemic has forced us to review the relations between humans and the nature. Health of the planet and health of the people are considered as a package, especially in the concept of the so-called planetary health. And One Health with a specific acknowledgement of the zoonotic diseases. This means that we have to create a mechanism to implement a more integrative approach to the challenges we face. looking at the discussion in the area of climate change and biodiversity, 2030 is going to be a key year or milestone year. Beyond 2030, 2050 is another milestone year with the target of net zero emission by 2050 in the area of the climate change and net gain year in the area of biodiversity. Importance of an integrative approach in these two areas needs to demand more attention. Even though actions tends to be implemented and promoted separately, it is important to take an integrative approach to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of resource input and investment. That is the reason that we are now seeking to find an integrative approach through the discussion of ISAP. And we have worked on the Japanese translation of this theme of decisive decade towards integrated solution to climate, biodiversity, and other planetary challenges. The next 10 years is without question a critical juncture, and I must admit that we have taken too much time arriving at this critical juncture, but I'm hoping and praying that we are not yet too late. Before closing, I would like to reiterate my thanks to everyone who is attending this event, and I would like to conclude my welcoming remark. I hope this event is going to be a meaningful experience for all of you.
With this, we would like to end the opening ceremony.